the Woody character because they wanted to have like the passing of like old Hollywood to new Hollywood, and obviously this is what happened. But Paul Newman did actually go on to voice in Cars. He voiced Doc in Cars in 2006, and that was his last role before he passed away in 2008. But there were some other actors who were offered the roles, like Billy Crystal was initially offered the chance to voice Buzz Lightyear, but he declined. And he has said that was the biggest mistake of his career. So after Toy Story came out, John Lasseter called Billy Crystal and to offer him the role of Mike in Monsters, Inc. And Billy Crystal's wife, as the story goes, answered the phone. He said, John Lasseter's on the phone, and Crystal's, as he tells the story, he said, yes! He didn't even hear what the pitch was. He wanted to make up for missing out on Toy Story, and who wouldn't, right?
I'm glad he missed out, because he was awesome, at Monsters, Inc.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I mean, like, it's great how you still find a role for Billy Crystal, and now, I mean, Monsters, Inc. is just as iconic as Toy Story, I'd say.
I haven't seen Monsters, Inc. yet.
Well, there's a sequel, Brandon, so I guess if we want to talk about it one day, we can.
Oh, it's amazing.
So there's a character of Bo Peep in the movie, and that was initially supposed to be Barbie. But Barbie's owners, Mattel, they didn't want to have Barbie in the film. They declined because they weren't really sure about how this was going to go. They didn't know if it was going to go well. The film. The excuse they made at the time was they preferred Barbie to not have a defined personality. They wanted the kids playing with Barbies to kind of project their own personality and not have a divine personality. So they reworked that character into Bo Peep. But when Toy Story was proven to be a huge success, Mattel did allow Barbie to appear in Toy Story 2. So they changed their tune quickly on that one. And
then they made 30 films starring her.
Yes, yeah, right? I mean, like, there's so many direct-to-video, like, Barbie adventures and, like, Barbie computers and all this stuff now. So they quickly tried to cash in on the success of Toy Story in that way. And, one of my favorite, because there's so many little favorite toys about this, and as we talk about this, we'll go through them, but the toy soldiers, right? We have Sarge, and he is voiced by R. Lee Emery, and that is, of course... the actor who was in Full Metal Jacket, and he was in the Marine Corps, so they actually cast a real drill sergeant, and that's, Kubrick doing his thing there in Full Metal Jacket, and he's really typecast in that role, but, I mean, he does a great job, and it's just so funny to think that he's the voice of the same character in Toy Story as well as Full Metal Jacket, like the two ends of the spectrum, right, so...
Mm-hmm. What's funny is I actually watched both Toy Story and Full Metal Jacket today. So, in my headcanon, they take place in the same universe.
Excellent. Now, an interesting bit of how the animators worked out the movement of the toy soldier, Sarge, and all his troops there, is what they ended up doing is they nailed a pair of sneakers on a sheet of wood and then tried to walk in those sneakers on that piece of wood. And based off those movements from the people trying to walk, that's how they based the animation off how the toy soldiers would move, because, of course, their feet are planted into the space. So I thought it was a real creative way to find a way to capture those kind of movements and be true to what it would actually be. And speaking of Kubrick, right? The carpet in Sid's house has the same hexagonal pattern as the carpet in the Overlook Hotel from The Shining. So lots of inside film, inside film Easter eggs there. And hey, it's Sid's house. It's kind of a horror house. We first see it's at the Dutch angle, so it really does work on a lot of levels there. And a few other in-jokes, or another in-joke here is when Woody is trapped under the toolbox in the crate. It's a Binford Tools toolbox, which is, of course, the type of tool that Tim Allen uses on Home Improvement, his character on Home Improvement, Tim the Toolman Taylor, who, of course, voices Buzz Lightyear. So, a little connection there. Also, Pizza Planet was originally supposed to be a Pizza Putt, P-U-T-T, a pun on Pizza Hut, and it would have been a combination pizzeria mini golf course. So I'm not sure exactly why they changed that, probably because it was enough to have a video game place. I mean, to have putt-putt stuff in there as well would have been a little too much.
Because Pizza Planet is so much more awesome.
Oh yeah, Pizza Planet's awesome. Like, whenever I've been to Disneyland, I'm like, I have to go to Pizza Planet because I want to feel like I'm in Toy Story. But we do hear the Willem scream, the famous Willem scream that you'll hear in a lot of movies. When Buzz Lightyear is knocked out of the window, we hear it there. And originally, When Woody reveals himself to scare off Sid, Buzz wonders if doing so would have mentally scarred Sid for the rest of his life. But Woody kind of casually states, he'll be okay, in a comedic way. Now, that scene was cut. I don't know if it was cut for time or animation or budget, but I think that's interesting that was at least addressed, because that is psychologically scarring, I think. I mean, definitely, your toys, they'll play nice, right? So I thought that was a fun bit of trivia to end it on, because that really is, like, if you take that out of context, that is straight up horror movie, what they do to Sid at the end. So, and there you have it.
Yes. Excellent. Right on. Thank you so much for your trivia, Zach. Always wonderful, as always. So I think I want to start with the music, because I like the songs in this, but I'm not a big fan of Randy Newman. So, Gabe, we'll start with you. What are your impressions of the music in this film?
Well, for full clarity, this is probably the film I've watched the most in my entire life. I don't remember a time where I hadn't seen this film. We had an old VHS of it recorded off the TV, and we watched it just over and over. So to me, I don't know if the Randy Newman songs are good or bad, but I love them with all my heart, pretty much. And I can sing every one of them. Yeah, so I just absolutely adore them. I think as a compromise, to not make it a musical, just have the songs kind of explaining what the characters are feeling, I think it works pretty well. I love the sequences. I think they're all pretty, very emotionally effective, and they really stuck out to me as a child, especially the Strange Things one. That one always kind of depressed me a little bit as a kid, just seeing Woody's world crumble around him. So I find them very effective. And You've Got a Friend in Me is just lovely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, You Got a Friend in Me is a great song. Like, all the songs are really good. Like, he's a very talented writer. But, whenever I hear Randy Newman sing, I always go back to that Family Guy skit that they had.
Left foot, right foot.
He's eating an apple, and she take another bite of the apple. And I'm just like, yes, that is so Randy Newman.
But there's nothing wrong with that, though. It's interesting, Gabe. You said that you can't tell if they're good or bad. I mean, yeah, they just are, in this film. So, Gabe, you already mentioned what your not You've Got a Friend in Me, second favorite song is, because I think everybody's favorite song would be You've Got a Friend in Me. So, Brandon, if you had to pick a second favorite song of the movie, what would it be?
Oh, Strange Things Are Happening.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, see, I would pick I Will Go Sailing No More, when Buzz Lightyear's having his existential crisis. So, but
the fact that they could portray, a toy having an existential crisis in a believable way just through that, in that, 2-minute sequence
right?
is just a testament to their storytelling ability.
Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, see, for me, it's Strange Things Are Happening because, I like this story and a lot, and I think that this movie is so well written. To have this toy who's king of his castle to get pushed off by somebody, and to be going through this, like, basically his own thing of depression by no longer being the favorite toy. And so I think that song really captivates the story that's being told for Woody's side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that the film works so well because there's a lot of cool concepts here, and they combine a lot of them into a great story. Like, you think about, okay, what happens if toys, like, have the secret life of toys, right? That's like one concept, and that's a layer of the movie. Another layer is, as you grow older, you replace your toys with other toys. Like, what does that kind of impact have on the other toys, right? And then you have the whole, like, you're moving and then you lose toys, like the anxiety of that kind of stuff, because as kids, you've all lost a toy or lost something like that. And so, like, they combine all these sorts of things together so well, because it's not, I think without all of the parts, the movie wouldn't work as well, but because each element is so clever and, it has its own kind of distinct personality, that's what makes it come together and be such a great movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have you guys seen Tin Toy?
I have.
Zach?
I have not, actually. I didn't even know that was a thing until I was doing research for Toy Story, to be honest.
You see, Tin Toy is really great. Like, this is a wonderful extrapolation of taking the idea of Tin Toy and making a full movie of it. And, one of the best jokes in Tin Toy, and the way that I've always interpreted it is, so in Tin Toy, there's this baby... there's this baby who's playing with all these toys. He's drooling all over the toys, and he's very abusive of the toys because he's a baby in a diaper, like a really, really young baby. And there's this one joke where the tin toy runs underneath the couch, and there's like a ton of toys underneath, and they're all just quaking in fear because of this baby, like, just abusing these toys, right? And that's kind of the inspiration for the joke of the little sister in the crib. But to me, that joke works on a second level, because as a parent, it's like, this is why toys are always under the couch, because they're hiding from the kids that are abusing them, So, to take that idea of, like, what would happen if toys are alive, like, how would they play with kids, and how would they react to being played with? And, you got this really interesting idea of them being afraid of a child that would be, like, abusing the toys. And, what does he say? He's like 3 years and older, or whatever that Mr. Potato Head says. Ages 3 and up. So, yeah. I don't know. I like that joke, and I think that joke works really well. And this is a really great idea of a movie to extrapolate from that short film.
And they come back to that joke in Toy Story 3 with the daycare scene.
Yes. Yes, they do. So, yeah, Zach, you should check it out. You should see if you can find it for going into the other ones here.
Yeah.
It's like 5 minutes long. Like, it's not a very long
No, I'll check it out. And because I've actually just recently got into Oscar-nominated shorts this past year. I went to a showing of them all, so I'm kind of interested in that kind of stuff now. And this one won, so definitely. And to your point there, Brandon, about those kind of elements, like, I think about, Sid is like the bully, but he's a bully to toys, and he's kind of like a stand-in for kind of like a sociopathic kid who, like, tortures animals. It's like you torture toys instead. It's how they kind of, they transpose that kind of behavior. And then you have, like, the other toys, like, who are, like, you think they're monsters at first, but it's all about, you learn that, no, don't judge these toys by their appearance. Like, there's so much going on in this movie. It's not just, hey, what if your toys were alive? Like, that's a cool concept. But they really flesh it out in a lot of creative ways that you don't even think about. And then in the middle of this, you have a toy who thinks he's real. And then, like I was mentioning, like we were saying, like, he has an existential crisis that he's not an astronaut, he's a toy, and it works so well. And it not once do you roll your eyes at it; it pulls you in, and you feel for Woody, you feel for Buzz Lightyear, you feel for these misfit toys, like the room of the misfit toys over there, right? It just hits on so many levels. It just really is a masterpiece.
Yeah, the way they created this world and this society that toys have, and they introduce it all just in the first few minutes with the staff meeting. We understand the rules of this world. We understand what toys want and what they don't want, and their fears, their anxieties. All of that is given to us right at the start, and it's just a really well written world. Going to the second and third movie, we completely understand everything about these tiny societies, and it's just so well communicated.
Mm-hmm. So, Gabe, you'd mentioned that this is the movie that you've probably seen the most in your life. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Why this movie has meant so much to you? Why it's a movie that you've continually gone back to?
Well, most of those were, probably before the age of 10. It's the VHS we had, and we liked it, so it got played a lot.
So basically, like me having the original Batman with Adam West because we recorded it off of the TV.
Yeah, and actually, I think that kind of turned me off of it for a while. I kind of latched on to Toy Story 2 as like, this one's better, and the first was kind of boring. Just I probably overplayed it, and it wasn't until in recent years going back to it and realizing, this is actually like a perfect film, and yeah, so watching it that many times maybe wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, Gabe, you mentioned this being a perfect movie, and I agree, man. I mean, a comparison I make is like Back to the Future, because there's so many setups early in the movie that kind of pass you by, you're not paying attention to, but then they'll come back around later in the movie. Like in Back to the Future, you have the flyer about the clock tower, and and a lightning strike, and you just think that's just world building or extra noise, but it's not. It's crucial to the end. And in this one, there's so many examples. One of them is like Sid torturing the toys with the magnifying glass, and that comes around at the end when Woody starts to get set on fire from Buzz's helmet, and then he uses it for the rocket, and it's really smart. All the setups are paid off, and even you think of fake out payoff, like Woody has that match in his holster the whole time. It's like, oh, he's going to use the match to light the rocket, but then it gets blown out, and you're like, oh no, what are they going to do? And so it's so great in that way.